Chapter 1: Increasing Your Artistic Skill Level. A superstar athlete would not reach the pinnacle of his or her sport, sign a lucrative contract, and then stop practicing. Likewise, artistically speaking, improving your skills is an ongoing process. If you're committed to becoming a successful artist, you are, in effect, committed to constantly and consistently improving your artistic skills. This means putting in the necessary time and effort to becoming a faster, more accurate, and more creative artist. Story artist Chris Pern is one of the fastest artists I know. On the subject of speed, he told me,
mentally, you're always trying to make good images. You're always trying to make good drawings. You're always trying to design good shapes. You're always trying to create good art. If you can imagine that you draw at 100%, 100% of your ability, it takes you maybe 10 minutes to do a good drawing. Let's just say you do 50% of your ability. So you knock back the drawing by 50%. The amount of effort you're going to put into that drawing, you'll speed up by 50%. And you'll probably draw worse for a little while. But the more you draw, the quicker your design sense will actually catch up to that demand of drawing faster. And then you just take that 50%, you squeeze it by another 50%. Next thing you know, you're doing a drawing 2 minutes. You're doing a drawing in a minute, in terms of trying to, so you drop your quality and then you work, and eventually your quality catches back up to the demand that you're making in your time.
I've met and had the privilege to know many famous, successful artists, and one thing is apparent. There are principles involved in creating a successful artist, but there's no infallible blueprint. There are commonalities amongst all these artists in how they do things, but how they got to where they are, what school they went to, what books they read, what they did to increase their artistic skill level always seems to be different. Schools are great, but artists don't always need to attend fancy, expensive colleges in order to really learn. Today, information is so widely available that people can learn by themselves more and more easily. What we need more than anything else is simply the passion and desire to better ourselves. Here's what award-winning illustrator Jason Seiler has to say about his passion for art.
You have to love what you're doing. You have to have, you have to want to get up at crazy hours and just draw. There's been times where I've gone to bed and I'm super tired. I've gone to bed and I'm like, I got to get up crazy early and do a job. And halfway through the night, I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to get some sketching done just for myself before I actually work on this job. And I'll go to work even earlier just to sketch. I don't do that all the time, but my point is you got to have that passion.
A part of finding your passion is just to get into the right frame of mind. For example, no one wants to fail, and most people hate the frustration that comes with failure. But there is actually a great reason for you to love it and enjoy it, because every road to success is paved with failure and frustration. That's how you get to success. You just have to turn your frame of mind around. Instead of thinking, I have failed, take your setback as, I'm on the right track. Even someone as successful as character designer Peter DeSev has his failures. And when he does, he embraces them.
There are tons of failures. There are failures all the time. Every time I sit down to do a drawing, there's always the possibility of failure. I never sit down, for better or worse, I never sit down with this, ultimate confidence that what I'm going to do is going to turn out great. But I think that's probably a healthy thing. I try not to get complacent about my work. I know there have been periods where I have, but every time I sit down, I feel like I'm on a tightrope, and the piece can go up in flames.
Along the same lines, Pixar animator Everett Downing says, if you want to be exceptional, you have to be comfortable with being out of your comfort zone. So the next time that you come towards an artistic challenge, don't try to avoid it. Take it head on. This is one of the best ways to develop extra sets of tools with which to create your ideas. How do we create art? How do artists paint and draw? We can think in all sorts of different ways. For example, we think in terms of lines. You try to draw a straight line at the same angle as the line that you see in real life, and you try to match it up. That's one way of thinking. Another simple way of thinking is looking at something and saying, how dark is that thing? Does the part that I'm drawing right now have the same darkness as what I'm looking at? That's another way of thinking in terms of values. You can look at a color and you can start to think about the hue, saturation, and value. 3 different ways of thinking all rolled up into one. You can think in terms of muscles. When artists look at a person and think about the muscles underneath the skin, it helps them better describe the overall person. And there are many, many more ways of thinking. Some that are simple, some that are more complex. Relate each way of thinking to different muscles in your brain. How do you strengthen and grow the muscles in your body? You have to exercise them, work them out. The same goes for the muscles in your brain. I remember the first time I tried to visualize a box and turn it in my head. It was extremely difficult, and I was just trying to picture a simple linear box. In the beginning, it felt like I was not capable of imagining this box, visualizing in my head, and turning it in the way that I wanted to. Despite hard concentration, this went on for 2 or 3 weeks. And for much of the time, it didn't seem like I was making any progress at all. It felt like I was trying to move a boulder. I was exerting effort, but couldn't see any results. But eventually, things started to change, and the box in my head started to turn. And once it started happening, it continued to happen more and more easily the more I did it. So if you're trying hard, then trust me, you're making progress. You might not see it right away, but under the surface, things are clicking into place, little by little. And once you break through, you'll be amazed by how quickly more progress follows. Start learning to think by copying things, matching the same angles, proportions, values, and colors, like a full body workout for your muscles. You can practice a whole bunch of different ways of thinking just by copying. Once you really learn one way of thinking, switch to another way of thinking. Once you become an expert on thinking in lines, switch to thinking in values and become an expert at that too. Once you're able to think in a variety of different ways, you can start to visualize. I talk about this idea of visualization in different contexts in each of the 5 episodes in this book. That's because I believe visualizing is the most powerful way in which to think. Legendary Mad magazine artist Mort Drucker says in his Schoolism video that he can visualize the whole person before he draws them. Visualizing also happens to be one of the hardest ways in which to learn to think. So don't feel like it's just going to come overnight. Just the opposite. It's going to take a lot of hard work and dedication. During his career at Disney, visual development artist Marcela Vignali took figure drawing classes in the studio, but was unable to attend for a couple of weeks.
And something came up the next week, and I missed that class too. So between, having missed those 2 weeks, it was going to be 3 weeks between the time that I had drawn the figure. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, I'm never going to reach my goal of being able to draw the figure and understand this thing at this rate. I mean, if I start, creating lapses in my attendance. Now, the reasons for not going were legitimate. They were legitimate reasons why I couldn't go to the drawing class. But I started thinking about that, and I thought, the only way that I am going to attain my goal is to be unreasonable. And I had to logically plan to be unreasonable. And I thought, my Wednesday is not negotiable. And that's it. And then from then on, I continued going to the drawing classes throughout the remainder of my time when I was at Disney. And that one particular class was never negotiable.
Join me on schoolism.com for art classes where you'll learn from known professional artists. Watch the lessons, do the assignments, hand in your assignment to the site, and in a few days you would receive a new video where you have your assignment on screen. Your teacher would then paint and draw on top of your assignment, designing their teaching towards your specific skill level. You can watch the videos on your own time. You can do the assignments on your own time. You have a due date. That's it. You have access to the videos 24/7, and the best thing of all is that you can ask the teacher any questions that you want. Also, you get to watch everybody else's video critiques as well, because they'll be asking all sorts of different questions that totally pertain to you. It's just that you never thought of asking. If you'd like to find out more, you can visit us at schoolism.com and sign up for a class today.